Kevin Durant is undeniably one of the greatest scorers in NBA history, but he has had one of the most interesting careers for a star of his caliber. After not being able to get it done in OKC, he went to Golden State where he won 2 Finals MVPs, but since then, he has only won 2 playoff series as he hopped from team to team to try and win without being in Steph's shadow. As I've thought more about how Durant's game really fits into a championship team, there only seems to be one real conclusion I've been able to get to. Kevin Durant is the greatest second option in NBA history. Over his entire career, a ton of athletes have discussed how hard it is to defend KD. Marcus Smart said you had to just pray when guarding him. Kobe Bryant said KD was the one guy he never really figured out, and that has shown throughout KD's career as he has averaged 27 points on 50% shooting, pretty insane efficiency for someone that primarily shoots jump shots. And on the court, it shows as he has had one of the most versatile scoring skill sets ever. He is known as one of the best mid-range scorers, and he did a ton of damage from the wing. With his back to the basket, he can take his time and then transfer quickly into that shot. As long as he had the space, he only needed a few dribbles to get to his sweet spot. He's comfortable going to either hand and then stopping on a dime before pulling up as well. And the key thing here is that he's 7 feet tall with a high arcing shot, so most defenders can't get a real contest on these shots. This allowed him to be a great 3-point shooter as well, as he shot 39% from behind the arc, making him an all-around elite scorer. What I did find the most interesting though was how often he played off the ball, especially in OKC. A lot of off-ball screens were set to help free him up so that defenses couldn't load up to him in time. With someone like Westbrook, who was a good passer, he helped set Durant up in a lot of different ways. With defenders trying to front KD, he could make those entry passes over the top, which got him really easy paint touches. And Durant was a pretty good cutter himself, as he could find open space at the basket. His off-ball game ended up being a really important aspect of his game. Yes, Westbrook did dribble a lot of times, but he was the primary playmaker and helped Durant focus on just catching the ball and scoring. Because of this, Kevin Durant has been one of the most dominant players in the 2010s. So, how does it make sense for him to be a second option? A primary option isn't defined by the best box score stuffer on the team. Instead, one of the hallmarks of a primary option is the ability to still break down the defense when multiple defenders are thrown at them. As teams load up and try to disrupt the star, it's on that player to make the right reads and create opportunities for others. Luka Doncic does this brilliantly by picking apart double teams in the pick and roll. Nikola Jokic does the same from the post, effortlessly finding open teammates. This forces the defense into constant dilemmas and what separates true primary options from just pure scorers. The thing that many who call Durant unstoppable didn't mention is that basketball is a team game. While Durant is impossible to guard one-on-one, putting multiple defenders around him changes that equation. In a lot of her previous clips, a lot of those off-the-dribble shots were created from being in single coverage. That's because there's just too much space for him to get in rhythm and find his sweet spots. But forcing Durant to really read the defense has helped slow down some of his scoring prowess. This really started in 2016 when the Warriors would load up with multiple defenders to close up his airspace. Part of the reason they could do this is because the Thunder didn't have enough shooters. So Durant, who has the mentality to score, didn't feel confident passing it to his teammates and settled for tougher shots instead. But the scoring mentality also led to a bit of tunnel vision. Here he does a great job beating Iguodala, and Green's ready to help. As he goes up, Adams is open underneath the basket, Serge Ibaka is also open in the corner, but instead, Durant tries to go at one of the best defenders ever. On this one, he's coming off a curl, and he predetermines his shot over 2 Warriors defenders. If we go back, this needs to be thrown to Ibaka on the roll, especially with no Warriors big men near the paint. Overall, by having multiple defenders around him, this pushed him out a bit further and forced him to take these tough contested shots. Knowing that the defense was going to load up, Durant would go a bit quicker than he normally would like and put himself in bad positions to score. In that 2016 series, he settled a lot instead of trying to move the defense because he just didn't have the spacing that he ideally would want. As a result, in one of the all-time moves, Durant mustered up the courage to join the Golden State Warriors to play with more shooters and skilled players. That worked out immediately as he won back-to-back titles with 2 Finals MVPs. And in the 2017 Finals specifically, he scored 30 points in every game and averaged 35 points for the series. Because of this, a lot of people were under the impression that Durant had made a significant leap in his game. In reality though, it was the roster around him, specifically having Stephen Curry, that made his life a lot easier.
KD's hard to stop, and he's going to score his points. I just think, the most dangerous guy over the last 3 finals, and we've talked about, is that Steph Curry. When he's making shots, when he's scoring the basketball, when he's passing the basketball, they're an unbelievable team. So I think, that's the hit of the snake.
In the finals, the Cavs had clearly made the effort to sell to Steph Curry at all costs. This was most apparent in Game 1, when the Cavs let Durant get multiple fast break dunks because they didn't want Curry to shoot threes. In the half court, Curry often handled the basketball because the Cavs were going to double him. So with all that attention, Durant was often the beneficiary, driving into this wide open space for 2. Remember, in OKC, Durant would face these defensive shells where multiple guys zoned up on him. But in Golden State, the defense lightened up. With Curry around, he has all that space on the wing and scores. The other way Curry set up Durant was through the pick and roll. Again, with multiple dudes always going to Steph, that left Durant with a much easier matchup in isolation, and there's just no chance someone like Kevin Love can even defend that. Essentially, with more resources dedicated to Steph, Durant was able to find the shots that he really likes without resistance, which really helped with his efficiency. When Curry was not on the floor, the offense didn't look nearly as potent. Yes, they had Klay Thompson, but the offense looked more traditional with the ball at the top of the key and trying to drive the lane and kick out for threes. The off-ball movement that was Golden State's calling card wasn't really there because they had Durant trying to be the primary playmaker. This difference in offensive flow can be reflected by Durant and Curry's impact in the offense. Through their 3 years together, when Durant was on the floor and Curry was not, Golden State only outscored teams by 2.54 points per 100 possessions. But when Curry was on the floor and Durant was not, Golden State still outscored teams by a whopping 15 points near 100 possessions. This isn't necessarily the end-all be-all, but it helps us understand why teams believe Curry was still the head of the snake. Even though Durant had the better numbers, it was Curry's ability to handle all the defensive pressure that allowed Durant to succeed in his role. Yes, KD still had a big role on this team, but he didn't have to do the dirty work that most stars have to do to make their teams better. And as his career continued, we started to see some of those cracks. When he left Golden State, most teams thought that getting him was an automatic path to a championship. But since he's left, he's only won 2 playoff series in his career, despite having multiple stars alongside him and much more shooting than he had at any time in OKC. That's because KD had to become the primary playmaker. Kevin Durant automatically makes teams better because he's so great on an individual level, but that doesn't really translate with his teammates. The biggest thorn in Durant's offensive game is his ability to find his teammates. Against double teams, he struggled to secure the ball and then find the open guy. Because he's loose with the ball, a lot of defenders are waiting to strip the ball as he's trying to corral it. So even if his teammates are open, he's not prepared for the double to be able to find them. One specific aspect of his passing that Durant never figured out was using his eyes to move the defense, and this allows help defenders to read his passes. For example, Durant runs pick and roll, and Tatum is so high up to close off Durant's driving lane. That then puts a ton of pressure on Horford to react to either of these nets, but because Durant's staring at Claxton, Horford can rotate, and even if the ball moves around, everyone rotates perfectly, which loses that advantage. Funny enough, just a minute later, Horford's the passer and Durant's the help defender. But because Horford fakes that pass to move KD, now the corner 3 is open and Williams just misses. As Durant has gotten older, Defenses have become smarter and faster, so it requires the smallest of details, like using your eyes to move the defense, to really open up the passing lanes that you truly want. And Durant has never really figured that out. Defenses have then continued to pressure him, and he hasn't been able to maximize the offense with that extra attention. The reality is that Durant never found that co-star that could relieve him of some of those playmaking duties. Harden was probably the closest guy that really embraced being the point guard in Brooklyn, but that experiment only lasted 16 games together. Kyrie Irving has a similar mentality as Durant in terms of scoring first before trying to find his teammates. And then in Phoenix, they wanted Devin Booker to be that primary playmaker, but he also has similar issues as KD. While he doesn't turn the ball over as much as him, he also doesn't do enough to punish those double teams. Most notably against Denver, Booker couldn't make the skip pass to the corner, which allowed Denver's defense to rotate just one pass away. And as the years went on, the offense continued to make the same mistakes, and as a result, the Suns had to blow it up and are now in the midst of a rebuild. Which then leads to my most important point. Kevin Durant's value didn't come from elevating the floor of a team, but more so elevating the ceiling of a great team already. As long as there was a playmaker on the floor, Durant could maximize his value by focusing on finding the right matchups so that he could score more effortlessly. And there's nothing wrong with being known as that. At the end of the day, Durant will deservedly go down as one of the all-time greats, and specifically one of the best scorers of all time. Even if I don't think his game is suited as a primary option, that should not take away from his overall greatness. Yes, legacy matters to a lot of athletes, and Durant's will always be complicated, but when you're already an all-time great, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being the greatest second option in NBA history. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If so, please like and subscribe. You can support me on these platforms. Hope you're enjoying the summer, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.